Again, in case you haven't seen any ads about Election Day, the midterm election's only 6 days away. We're starting to get a better sense, though, of some of these key races and how they are shaping up nationally.
In Colorado right now, polling and some political observers give Democratic incumbents Jared Polis and Michael Bennet the advantage right now as we head into next week. But then again, this is early. We look at the national numbers, though, and that might not be the same. Chris Bianchi is joining us now, and you spoke with a national election forecaster about how the Senate and House may look after the midterms, and they could be very different.
Absolutely. So kind of want to take a bit more of a broad perspective. Obviously, big questions about who's going to control the House and the Senate. And obviously, we'll be keeping an eye on the state ballot and congressional races here in Colorado above all next week. But I also, again, wanted to ask an expert about who might have the leg up in those key House and Senate races next week. But you know what? For a quick second, let's forget about those forecasts. And this is a really, really important point. There is a good chance that we will not know the results of several key national races come next Wednesday, the day after, of course, Election Day. In some cases, it may be a few days or even a few weeks until we know. For example, in Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and Arizona, votes will not be counted in some cases until the polls have closed. There's nothing strange going on. It, in some cases, just takes time. And in the current political environment, this feels like an extra important point to remind everyone. So here's Kyle Kondik from the University of Virginia's Center for Politics with more on that.
It also seems like because of, unchanged laws about how quickly you could process absentee ballots and those sorts of things, it may still be a couple of days in a state like Pennsylvania. Arizona has historically taken a couple of days to finalize. California usually takes a really long time. There are some key House races out there.
And so again, some of these races will be close enough that we might not know the results of them on election night or even the day after. We might not know who controls the Senate even next Wednesday, and that's okay. Again, one of those key points that I know a lot of people right now thinking about what's going to happen next week. A lot of the polling going around, and that's certainly a big thing that we're keeping in mind. But it's also worth noting there's nothing nefarious going on, and the current political environment feels like an extra important reminder these days.
Well, the suspicion of nefarious activity seems to be overshadowing how many people are viewing an election that is yet to take place. But as far as not knowing what happens immediately, that's how we used to do it a lot of times.
Yeah, back in the good old days.
Count them up, we didn't, computers and forecasts and all these things that happen now. So sometimes you just have to wait.
Yeah, and we go back to 2020. Obviously, that was a bit of a different year with a lot of the extra mail-in ballots because of the pandemic. But the years before that, I think, anecdotally, myself, I'm 35. Growing up, I was used to, you would know on the night of election who would control the Senate. You would know 99% of the races, with the exception of the 2000 race in Florida, of course, presidential election in Florida. But again, now we may have that same situation once again. And again, worth perhaps reemphasizing and restating that if we don't know who is in control of the House or the Senate next week, that may be because of some of those things that we just mentioned.
Yeah, and I've heard some of the cable news networks saying we look at it as election week now, no longer election day.
Oh, different districts, different states add them up differently. You go into Denver and all the people that now do mail-in ballots, those ballots will all be counted within 20 minutes.
Yes. From
7 o'clock on, and that may be the bulk of Colorado's ballots.
Fascinatingly, to that point, Tom, I think, about 7:30, 8 o'clock next Tuesday, we should know the majority of the results here in the state of Colorado, but
possibly.
Yeah, possibly. And there will probably be a couple close races, maybe a ballot initiative or two. We might not know until Wednesday morning, but that will be different. Again, you mentioned it. In some different states, they count it in a very different manner. There's different legislation. And as a result of that, again, it's going to be maybe a little different than what we expect here in Colorado.
Well, come Tuesday night, 9 News will be with you as the election returns roll in. There's NBC's coverage of the national midterm election beginning at 6 o'clock here on 9 News. That includes congressional races determining the national balance of power. Of course, we'll have brief local updates as well on 9 News throughout the evening, taking you right up to 9 News at 10. Over on KTVD Channel 20, as well as on 9 News Plus, we will have continuous live coverage beginning when the polls close at 7 p.m. to follow the outcome of the Colorado races, including the U.S. Senate, all the House races, the governor, as well as our state legislature. Thanks, Chris.